It's NASCAR Coast to Coast here on this Thursday, August the 7th, 2025. We got a great show for you coming up, including a visit with Israeli driver Alon. What a great and powerful story of this driver who continues to live in Tel Aviv, comes over stateside, and boy, he's been tearing it up on the road courses in the ARCA Menard Series. We're going to talk about his journey and his struggles, plus the outlook for the Watkins Glen race coming up on Friday. Plus, it's been a weekend of big money. We'll let you know who took home some of the biggest cash prizes in late model history at the Cars Tour Throwback Weekend wrapped up over the week. And then, of course, our NASCAR Weekly Advanced Auto Parts National Championship is starting to really tighten up as the month hits the August and late summer stretch of 2025. That's all next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and it starts right now. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on this August the 7th, 2025. And we've got our special guest this week who's going to be running the ARCA Menard Series out at Watkins Glen here coming up on the road course, that 2.45-mile road course. Alon Day for Venturini Motorsports. And first of all, thanks for joining us, my man. I've been meaning to have you on the show for quite a while, and I'm glad it worked out. And I know you're pretty excited to get up to Watkins Glen and kind of resume a good run that you had like at Lime Rock and Sonoma earlier this year. And how excited are you to get back to Watkins Glen, a place I know you're familiar with?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Um, yeah, I think I'm super excited. I think after Lime Rock, when I finished P2 and then in Sonoma finishing P3, while I was like fighting pretty hard for the lead, I'm really excited to go to Watkins Glen. Like I feel like I need that first victory here in America so bad that I will do everything. I can't wait to hit the track.
Let's kind of go backwards because I know this is the first time we've had you on the show. So, an Israeli native, right? And you still live in Tel Aviv. So, first of all, what is the logistics like for you when you come over stateside to race? And just kind of walk us through. I mean, we were just talking before the interview started. The fact that the jet lag alone is set you back a couple days.
Well, the jet lag is one thing. The fact that you live in Israel can make a bit of change a bit the game.
Yeah.
Before, I don't know if you remember, but before the race in Lime Rock, it was in the middle of the war between Israel and Iran, um, and the airspace in Israel was closed like a week before the race.
Yeah.
I need to fly to the States, and I'm stuck in Israel. And it took me 66 hours to go from Israel to the United States. I went on a boat 30 hours from Israel to Cyprus, and then on a plane from Cyprus to Greece, and from Greece to JFK, and JFK to Charlotte. That was pretty hard, and this is what I'm saying. Like every time is a different story. You never know what happened when you live in Israel. So yeah, it is pretty difficult. Even though you live in the Middle East, you come here, you need like a week because there are 7 hours difference. So you need like a week. I just told you before the interview. It doesn't matter when you go to sleep, 12 midnight. You, you will wake up 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. Like it's a new day, like midday. So you need like a couple days to get into the rhythm and go back, to the normal hours. So yeah, it is pretty difficult, but that's the reason why I'm try to every time to I have a race here to be here like a week before.
So you're currently in Mooresville now as we do this interview. What is life like right now in Tel Aviv, in Israel? Obviously, things still going on, but how difficult is it to go home? And then kind of, you kind of have this reprieve when you come over here and race and everything's fun and you're doing what you love, and then you kind of have to go back to reality. So what is it like right now?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's pretty difficult. Every time. I mean, I'm Israeli. I'm Israeli. Super patriotic. I will live in Israel. I live in Israel, and I will live in Israel. And when you're in the middle of a war, it makes everything a bit more difficult. But also that those kind of things gives you more motivation to race here in the States. I appreciate it much more. The fact that I have JSSI to sponsor me, a company in America to sponsor an Israel guy, that's pretty unique. So it kind of like motivated me even more to be more successful here. And every time I come here and I race here, I carry the Israeli flag. There is a whole nation in the other side of the world, in the Middle East, that watching me and cheering for me. So it kind of like it's a pretty big thing for me. It's not like a normal time when I always said that I won 4 times the European NASCAR championship, and every time I did it kind of like for myself. Like I want to be good, I want to win
Yeah.
championships. But this time is a bit different. This time is like I feel like I'm carrying the whole nation. I'm trying to, uh, to to raise the Israeli flag and put it as high as possible. It's a bit of a different feeling when you're in a war. And yeah, every time you go back after the race, you live kind of like the American dream here, and then you fly back to Israel, and as soon as you land, reality hits you. Run away to the bunker, shelters, missiles, rockets, whatever. Um, it's pretty interesting situation, But unfortunately, I'm used to that. I grew up like that, so it doesn't really. I mean, this is life for me. Hopefully, it will end soon.
Yeah, and obviously we're glad you're safe, and hopefully the rest of your family back home is safe, and everybody's kind of doing what they need to do. I know you just mentioned you're a patriotic guy. For those that don't know, you spent a few years Israeli defense. I mean, you served your country. Is there ever a time now that you get that itch to go do that again? Obviously some years later, but with all that's going on, do you kind of maybe wish or think about maybe doing that again?
First of all, it's mandatory in Israel, and I think that's a good thing. Beside the fact that you protect your country, I think going to the military gives you kind of like discipline and
Yeah.
way of looking at life in a better way, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, as I said, it's mandatory. So for me, when I'm 18, it was nothing special. I knew that everybody needs to go to the military. You and your friends, you finish high school, you don't go to college, you hold the M16 and you go to the military. Right now, I mean, I'm 33 now. I can tell you that on October 7th, when the attack of Hamas happened, I think every person in Israel thought about like, hey, I want to go back. Sign me back. I want to go back to
Yeah.
the reserve. Um, but I mean, I have more. I think I can do better as a race car driver than as a soldier right now, unless I will be a fighter pilot. Wish I wish.
Yeah, maybe some of the racecraft can translate to being a fighter pilot.
Yeah,
Let's
I
talk
think that's the
racing.
closest you can get.
Yeah, well, exactly. You're basically just racing in the sky, which is pretty incredible. Let's talk about racing a little bit. You mentioned being a Euro champion 4 times, by the way, which is pretty incredible. But let's go back even farther. You started in single seaters. I mean, you were the Asian Formula Renault Challenge champion in '09. I mean, did was your career path when you got into racing more leaning toward like F1 and single seaters, or kind of how did you kind of catch the bug of racing?
Yeah. When you are not in America, your goal is always going to Formula One.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're, I don't know, Australian and you want to go to the VA supercars like SVG. But when you're like growing up in Europe, your goal is Formula One. So I started single seater also in Asia and also in Europe. I did many years in Formula Three, and also I raced here in Indy Lights. Um, and that was the goal. But sometimes, reality hits you, and you need to understand. You need to bring sponsors and money. And I figured out that it will be, as an Israeli, it will be a bit easier for me to find sponsors here uh, in America. And that was the reason why I switched from single seater into GT cars and stock cars. And what can I say? I mean, after the first test I did on NASCAR, I mean, I kind of like fell in love. I mean, it was perfect match. Pretty easy. You came from GT and single seater when you have so many ads, you have traction control, you have ABS, so
yeah.
many things around you, pedal shifts and everything. Then you go to stock cars and it's like just steering wheel and engine is a good luck.
Simple.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. This is driving, in my opinion. This is driving. Um, and I felt much more connected. And I think that's the reason why I have so much success. I mean, I love it much more than driving high technology cars. And also on the other side, it's as I said, it's a bit easier for me to find sponsors in the States instead of Europe as an Israeli.
What about your parents? Were you the first one that was into racing, or did you kind of maybe get exposed to it by your dad or your mom, or kind of what's that dynamic like? Because I can't imagine growing up in Israel that the first thing maybe you're exposed to is is racing, but
Yeah.
let alone kind of what was your upbringing like?
No, actually, I got into racing from video games, like
Oh,
simulators.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's this is how I got into it, and I was fortunate enough that my parents, supported me so much, and they realized like how much I love it, and they got me into go-karts. Go-karts at that time was kind of like the only motorsports we had in Israel, because in Israel, when I grew up, like in the early 2000, we had zero motorsports, like no racetracks, nothing,
yeah.
only go-karts. Um, and as I said, I mean, what can I say? Like, without my father, I wouldn't go like anywhere. He realized how much I love it. He tried to push me as hard as possible in Israel. He sent me to Europe to race in Europe in go-karts, and then starting rolling the ball. Um, so yeah, it's a bit different story, but yeah,
It's pretty unique though, which is awesome. We hear a lot of times the same thing. Oh, I'm a third generation racer or this, that, and the other. But you've come from an area, like you said, that doesn't have much motorsports, and you've relatively made it, right? You're racing now in the States. Let's talk about then the transition to NASCAR. You were part of that NASCAR Next Series or the next class in 2016. What was what were your thoughts about NASCAR even before then? Like, did you pay attention to kind of who was in the Cup Series? Did you kind of know anything about NASCAR, or were you kind of going in blind at that point?
I kind of like went blind into it. I got into NASCAR Next after my first year in the Euro NASCAR. I finished second at that year in my first year, and I went straight into NASCAR Next. Um, First time I'm here in Charlotte meeting other guys. The other guys in my class were kind of like big names. And then I got really like into it, into also history. Usually,
Yeah,
like if you ask me questions about history of Formula One, I will answer like a split of a second.
yeah.
Um, and then when I got into NASCAR Next, it kind of like opened a new world to me, and like a different, completely different. People in Europe don't understand how different NASCAR is compared to in my opinion, any other sports, also IndyCar. It's totally different culture, different sport, different type of driving, different type of like um, approaching into racing. Like I think the best example is uh, every time I race here, it blows my mind how aggressive the drivers here.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you watched the last lap in the ARCA race in Sonoma, but that was like
Oh yeah.
crazy in my opinion. I'm not used to that. Yeah, I mean Europe, you're not. If you touch somebody else, you're gonna get like 5 seconds penalty from the judges, from the stewards. And here it's like kind of like a jungle. You need to survive. You need to hunt. If you're not gonna hunt, you will be hunted. And that's the different mentality I'm talking about. This is like completely different sports to any other motorsports, in my opinion, in the world. So yeah, it took me, in my opinion, like 2 3 years to get really into NASCAR, in the same mentality, in the same kind of racing, know the history, know the tracks, know the drivers. And NASCAR Next really pushed it really hard, boosted.
Yeah. So then now you're learning this whole new racecraft of how to get physical and all that. But while you're doing so, your first Xfinity race, I thought this was fascinating. It was at Mid Ohio, and it was funded by a Florida lawyer named David Levin, who used 60 grand out of his own retirement fund to get you on the racetrack. First of all, how did that even come together? And I mean, he put a lot on the line there, but it got you on the racetrack in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. What do you remember about that day at Mid Ohio?
Uh, First of all, that retirement fund, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
No, that's new. But yeah, David Levine he's the guy that actually put me into this in America, into those kind of like Xfinity races and trucks, and also Cup. He really pushed me into it. He really wanted, his goal was to bring a Jewish driver into NASCAR. and he really helped me and pushed me as hard as possible to find sponsors. And he also sponsored by himself. And that race, that was that was a heck of a race. I drove like a really old Dodge. Um, yeah, and the race was like raining super like monsoon, like I'm talking
Yeah.
like floods. And I came from P24, P25, all the way up to P3 and first in like 3 or 4 laps. And since then, every time that I'm racing here, it's like, please, please rain. I need
Yeah, we
this
need to
rain as
move
much as
some of this
possible.
rain right now in Charlotte and Mooresville
Yeah,
up to
up
Watkins
to
Glen.
Watkins Glen. Yeah, I wish. And every time, like every 5 minutes, I open the app to check what's going on in
Yeah.
Watkins Glen. Like, please, please. Um, so yeah, that was a good race. I mean, I finished 13 in the end of the day, but I was like top three most of the race, and kind of like opened the door for me to other teams. People suddenly knew my name. Um, yeah, that was the beginning. It was a heck of a beginning.
So you've made some starts, and now, of course, this year with the Arca Menard Series and getting with Venturini Motorsports. I want to go back. I know we talked a little bit about Sonoma and that great run there, but Lime Rock.
No,
I'm
don't
sure you
remind
don't
me
really
why.
want to. I know you don't want to talk
No,
about it, but not only you rebounded to second, which is phenomenal, but at the same time, how hard is it to look back and think what could have been in your first American win? Because if it wasn't for that pit penalty, you probably would have walked away easily with that race win.
yeah, I still wake up in the middle of the night, like from a nightmare from this race. Yeah. What can I say? I mean, it was kind of like my fault, which I take on myself and also the spotters. Um, I mean, in the end of the day, I keep saying I should have known the rules better, but also it's a bit difficult when you're not speaking English as your language.
Yeah,
It's kind of like difficult when you speak with the spotters. Every time they said something, like you need to understand your brain, take it in English, translate it to Hebrew, and then it takes some time. Um, and I wanted to ask the question if I need to pit. In Europe, I know that doesn't matter what happened, you need to follow the pace car. And I saw the pace car going straight, and I knew that I need to go into the pit, but I saw the pace car, and for me, like pace car is God. I need to follow the pace car.
yeah.
And then I drove with the pace car, and I look at the mirror. I saw I'm completely alone. I was I was like, oh no. Um, and yeah, it should have been an easy win. I already opened a big gap in the first half of the race. I drove all the way back, and I'm very happy. In the end of the day, yeah, I lost the victory, and it was really hard, and I was very hard on myself. But I was very happy that I was able to show like I'm quick enough to hold and to have a lead and open a gap, and I'm also good enough to go all the way from the back up to P2 without causing anything. Like I didn't even touch, not even a single car. So I was very happy that I was able in the end of the day to show I have the speed and I have the racecraft. So that's the only good thing I take out of it. Uh, the rest, I'm still beating myself for that, and I hope, yeah, it will never happen again. That's for sure.
Well, I was gonna say, so then you probably just been itching to get back in the seat, and it comes this weekend at Watkins Glen. So is this like a redemption race for you? Are you a little extra motivated because you know you were that close and you could probably go up here and do it again?
Yeah, I think we have the possibility. Um, I mean, the Venturini car. What can I say? It's like they're really really good. I think it's the first time when I'm racing here in the States with a top team. Like finally, I have like good equipment and where I can show my real potential. And I'm not driving like a slow car from the back of the field and trying to
Yeah.
show who I am. So it's much easier. We go out, doing a couple laps, you're top three. It's much easier. Still, it's kind of like annoying, when you need to fight against like JGR or something, cars that you cannot, it's like unfair in my opinion. But in the end of the day, we have the speed. Venturini car is like really good. The crew chief, and everybody there is like doing an amazing job. And I'm pretty sure we will able to, fight for the victory in Watkins Glen. And Watkins Glen is a bit different compared to the rest, like compared to Lime Rock and Sonoma, because it's much higher speed. Like it's less about the driving, it's more about the car. In Lime Rock, for example, it's super technical. So the driver have a lot of input into the speed. If the driver is good, the car you will be good. It doesn't matter how good is the car, you will be good. In Lime Rock is a bit, yeah, in Watkins Glen, sorry, it's a bit different because it's more like high speed. There is a lot into the setup of the car and how the car is set up. So, but I'm confident that we have the option and the possibility to have hopefully to win the race.
And does having the experience of having been there before, because like Lime Rock, I don't think anybody in the field has been there, but going to Watkins Glen, you've got experience. Does that help a little bit? Kind of knowing what you're going to get into and what you need out of the race car versus a new track?
Um, no, I mean I've even in Lime Rock. I mean,
Yeah,
I told you I grew up like I got into racing from video games. So I've been in kind of like been in Lime Rock
true. Yeah,
bazillion
true.
times. Like
True.
so I know like every corner. It doesn't really matter. Like the only thing is like to get adapted to the car. That was the biggest issue for me in Lime Rock because it's a new car. The track I know everybody is the same thing for everybody, but now I need to adapt myself to a new car. And in Watkins Glen, I think it's gonna be easier because I know like the small things about Watkins Glen. For example, last year they changed a bit the runoff area, so you cannot really go very wide and take advantage of that. So those kind of things I'm very happy that I know from last year. But in the end of the day, I mean, it's Watkins Glen. I mean, Watkins Glen, you've been there on the sim
Yeah.
million times. Like I'm pretty sure everybody with iRacing subscription have been there like many times.
I've driven a
So
car there and I haven't even been in a real race car.
you see, you know the track.
Yeah.
And simulators those days are super accurate. I mean, they're laser scanned and they're very precise. I mean, what you see on the sim in iRacing, for example, is what you actually get in real life. So yeah, it's only how quick you can adapt yourself to the car and with the car to the track. The track I know, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it's going to be exciting to watch. Two more questions for you. Well, I remember a long time ago now, it feels like forever, when we had Daniel Suarez on. I know when he was getting into NASCAR from Mexico, he said, I learned how to speak English by watching cartoons. Your English is pretty good. And I know you just said, working with the spotters, you almost have to try to translate things back to Hebrew, but where did you learn such good English?
Uh, well, in Israel, first of all, you study in school, but I don't think that's the where I actually pick up the English. I think it's from video
Yeah.
games. You play video games all day long, speaking with other players, obviously in English. I spent a lot of time in Europe since I'm a kid in English. So I think this is where and every Israeli kid is like watching TV. Everything is in English. We just have
Yeah,
subtitles. So
that's
that's
true.
the best way, in my opinion. That's the best way to learn English.
See, so TV and video games, parents, if you're
They're not
watching,
that bad
they're
in the end
not
of the
that
day.
bad. You may pick up another language. Finally, how cool was it back in May to see fellow Israeli driver Robert Schwartzman sit on the pole of the Indianapolis 500? I don't know if you know
Uh,
him personally, but I thought that was an incredible story, and I'm sure pretty prideful to see a fellow countryman on like the world's biggest stage.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I have to say, it's the first time. First of all, I didn't even know he's racing with the Israeli flag, but that's the first time. I've been in Indianapolis. I did the Freedom 100 in Indy Lights. I know how
Yeah,
difficult Indianapolis is, um, especially in single seater. I mean, when you do a track when it's just flat out and you drive so in such a high speed, I know how difficult it is, and it's super cool to see the Israeli flag on a pole seater. Yeah, I hope for him, I wish for him more success. I mean, it's always cool to see everybody in Israel were so pumped suddenly. Like we don't even usually in Israel, you don't really care about, kind of like motorsports, Indy 500 or something like that.
yeah.
And people suddenly like watching the Indy 500, woke up in 4 a.m., in the middle of the night to watch a race because there is an Israeli on the pole position. So yeah, I offer him to have more success in IndyCar. I think he did a great job. Also, when he drove in Europe, I mean, he's a super good, talented driver. Yeah, hopefully we will be able to see him clinch the victory. You know.
When we were in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago for ARCA and trucks at IRP, we went over to the museum, and his car with these Israeli flags still is in the museum. They have all three of the front
No
row
way.
lined up. Yeah, so if you're ever in Indianapolis, go to the museum. Not sure how long they're going to have it up. I think for the rest of the year, but it's pretty cool. It's like right when you walk in, they have the front row for the 500. They do this whole pre-racing, gives you chills, but then to see his car sitting there, the exact same car, it's
That's
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
cool.
Before we let you go, I know we got Watkins Glen this weekend. You've done a lot of road course racing. What about your thoughts on an oval? When are we going to see on an oval?
It's a good question.
I know you want
I hope
to, probably.
I want to. I want to, but I want to do it in the right moment with the right team. I think, as I said, road course, the driver have a lot of effect. Like how good you are will affect like the result. I think in oval, it's a combination between the team and the driver. And I want to do it in the right moment with the right team. And I know when I know I have a good equipment, um, but I will do it. I will do it soon.
Awesome. Well, Alonde, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck this weekend. We'll see you on the grid up there in the Finger Lakes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Venturini Motorsports driver Alon Day. We'll see him at Watkins Glen with the ARCA Menard series coming up on Friday night. You can listen to that race, by the way, on the Motor Racing Network. Coming up next, we've got our Advanced Auto Parts weekly series check-in of the standings and your short track calendar. That's all next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network.
3, 2, 1, start your engine!
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it!
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby!
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Appreciate Alonde for joining us once again as we welcome you back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. What an awesome story, and looking forward to catching up with him and his entire crew out at Watkins Glen coming up this weekend. Speaking of the ARCA Menard series, let's put a bow on what happened last week because it was a thriller as Brendan Butterbean Queen at Iowa took home the ARCA Menard series and ARCA East combo race, the Atlas 150 out at Iowa Speedway in dramatic fashion because although it looked like it was going to be a runaway, Brent Cruz had other ideas in the final probably 20 to 30 laps. He was just running them down, and then lap traffic almost proved detrimental to Brendan Butterbean Queen, who had to survive several slower cars, holding off Brent Cruz at the line by the narrowest of margins as Queen takes his fifth win of 2025 and somehow still has yet to win on a quote-unquote short track. But he's got plenty of those coming up next. We got to get through Watkins Glen, though, this week, but he continues to have that points lead over Lawless Allen, now extending it by 33 points, as we will see them next in action again on Friday for the General Tire 100 at Watkins Glen. Isaac Kitzmiller in the East Championship had another solid performance. He has a 19-point lead in the East title race over Tyler Reif. They're through 7 of their series championship. I mentioned the big money in the top of the show. Boy, the Cars Tour was handing out almost $80,000 worth of prize money between the late model stocks and the pro late models at the Throwback Classic at Hickory Motor Speedway. Of course, Mother Nature, just like you heard in our interview, it's been raining quite a bit over here in the North Carolina, Charlotte area. So they had to postpone until Sunday, ran the race late Sunday night. But it didn't matter because Minnie Tyrell scored the biggest win of his career in the late model stock, taking home $50,000 in the Throwback Classic. Had to hold off Jared Freyer, who was just running him down, was all over his back bumper the last 5 laps. It was incredible television if you stayed awake to watch the late model stocks duke it out. And I know Minnie said the win at Dominion in his own race a few weeks ago was his biggest. Yeah, check that. This is certainly going to take the cake with $50,000 in his pocket. Spencer Davis, speaking of thrillers, earlier took home the probably closest finish in pro late model history of the season so far in an absolute dogfight with Luke Baldwin. Luke Baldwin slid him, took the lead with one to go. Then for Spencer Davis actually got back underneath him, and then it was a drag race at the line, and about a fender separated your top two, with Spencer Davis taking home $30,000 in that one. Now in the points championships for the Cars Tour, as we kind of hit the back little third of the season, Connor Hall still has that 6-point lead over Landon Lewis in the late model stock class. Landon Lewis, part of another dramatic wreck there with about 10 laps to go. Tempers flared with him, and Tristan McKee got into it on a restart. Certainly a lot of words were exchanged after that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, head to Flow Racing socials. You'll definitely see what I'm talking about. Keelan Harvick in the Pro Late Models is just 6 points back of Ben Mayer, who continues to lead that championship. So again, both title chases very close as we head next to Anderson Motor Speedway on Saturday, August 16th for both classes. By the way, Landon Huffman, congratulations. Back-to-back throwback winner. He won the fans' choice vote for the best throwback scheme of the weekend, and will take home, courtesy about Flow Racing and a couple other entities, $1,500 worth of prizes for throwing it back to Dad's 1990 pink Cadillac, the number 39. Pretty cool. If you can again see that on Flow Racing if you don't know what I'm talking about. Other winners over the weekend, the NASCAR Canada Series. How about Will LaRue wins the Busch Light Bud Light 250 at Chaudier. A big milestone for Robert Yates Racing. If you haven't really been paying attention, that is number 525 as far as wins for the program. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So the 525 program, its first win for Robert Yates, continues to be a stalwart in the engine department across all stock car racing. So really cool for Robert Yates. Danny Bone got the win over at Bowman Gray over the weekend. They had a big event as well, as they kind of continue to push towards their championship season ender. And Bubba Pollard doing Bubba Pollard things. He's kind of got a new look 26 program this year, of course, changed chassis, and now, continues to dominate in the Southern Super Series as he won over the weekend at Mobile. Some news you may have missed over the weekend. We're actually going to see it this weekend for the first time. Brent Cruz, our two-time ARCA Menard Series winner this year, has started his own truck team. Yeah, sold a couple of his micro sprints, had some help from Pristine Auction, one of his longtime sponsors, and he's formed Brent Cruz Motorsports. It's going to kick off the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this weekend at Watkins Glen with Brent Cruz behind the wheel. Always likes to do things different. He and his stepdad are kind of forwarding this effort. He's just 17 years of age, but already has his own truck team. They're going to run a partial schedule. Really cool opportunity. And of course, they're going to run kind of in conjunction, because he is a Toyota driver, out of the Nitro Motorsports camp with Nick Tucker. And again, support by Pristine Auction. So Brent Cruz, one of our ARCA Menard Series and Regional Rising Stars, now a Truck Series team owner and driver, wanted to fill his schedule again. He runs part-time for Tricon, and I guess this is the way to do it. You just start your own truck team. So congratulations to Brent. And we'll see him this weekend. I mentioned also, too, we are getting close to the end of the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly National Championship. Of course, we are rolling right now through the month of August. And this is your updated standings as Chase Johnson continues to lead the Division I National Championship, has been winning races at Elko. He's got a 406-point tally as far as through this point of the season. Jacob Gady, though, he's right there. He's getting close. He's only 4 points back in the championship. And Jacob Gady, of course, is a former champion across several different tracks and divisions. Brandon Ward, Tim Brown, Mitch Keeter, all within about 100 points as well. So still a nip and tuck race for the national championship, as that'll be awarded coming up in August, or later in October and into November. Coming up this weekend, of course, we mentioned the ARCA Menard Series has their event at Watkins Glen, the final road course race of 2025. We've had 4 different winners since this series has been here since 2021. And of course, Nitro Motorsports, who has won the last road course race with Thomas Annunziata getting it done at Lime Rock. They're not going to have Thomas behind the wheel. They're going to have Thad Moffitt, one of their other Nitro Motorsports drivers, aboard that number 70. Brent Cruz, I mentioned, is going to be in the field. He's going to run double duties with the trucks. And then Tristan McKee making his series debut. Of course, a big driver for Spire and Chevy, kind of one of the up-and-comers out of their camp. He is a former TA2 winner as well at the Glen. So we've got a lot of experience coming up this weekend around the left and right hand turns at Watkins Glen. I got something in my eye, and we'll see what happens coming up this weekend. So it's going to be exciting. All roads are going to have to lead probably through Brendan Queen and Brent Cruz, but you heard from Alon Day, certainly going to be a factor with Venturini Motorsports. I really think he could be the one to spoil the party, as well as Tristan's been stout as well as a road course racer. So also Dale Corley. Can't forget about the road racing ace, Dale Corley. So that race coming up Friday night, August 8th. So this Friday, again, you can listen to that race right here on the Motor Racing Network beginning at 7 p.m. The ARCA West Championship rolls on as well as they go out to Tri-City Raceway for a late one on Saturday, 10:45 p.m. Eastern time for the Napa Auto Care 150. Brandon Huddleston's been quiet, but he continues to have that championship lead after winning earlier this season. He's got it by 14 over Tyler Reif. Tyler Reif won the pole actually for this one in a close battle with, remember, Sean Hingarani, your former champion? Yeah, that was that race 1 year ago. And the Biff is back. Greg Biffle made a late announcement earlier this week. He's going to join the ARCA Series West back at his home track. And of course, he is a former track champion at Tri-City as well. So we'll see what happens again. ARCA West at Tri-City, 10:45 Eastern, Saturday on Flow. And some other events coming up this weekend. Well, as we speak and record this show on Wednesday for Thursday, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour is in action at Thompson. We'll let you know about that and talk about that next week. But of course, their season continuing to hit the back portion of the year with race number 750 for the tour. So it's a big milestone out at Thompson, but congratulations to whoever's going to win. We're going to find that out next week. Austin Beers came in with a 4-point lead, though. So, of course, that championship tight over Justin Bonsinger, by the way, is won a time or two at Thompson. I think 14 total. So we'll see if he can continue that coming up this week. But on your calendar starting today, Thursday, through the rest of the weekend is Thunder Road, Stafford on Friday. And then, of course, Saturday, Riverhead has modifieds. We have super modifieds at Oswego, Berlin, Jennerstown with weekly racing. South Boston has weekly racing as well. Langley back in action, of course, after the Hampton Heat a couple of weeks ago with twin late model features. Hickory has weekly racing, plus the twin 50s for the mods at Bowman Gray. And, of course, the MRN schedule as we join the rest of the team up at Watkins Glen for a jam-packed NASCAR weekend. Here's your listening schedule for MRN. It all begins, as we mentioned, with Alon Day on Friday, 2 o'clock, the ARCA Menard Series General Tire 100 at the Glen, followed by a doubleheader, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on the NASCAR Racing Network at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at Watkins Glen. We welcome the trucks back, doing a little left and right racing as well, as they just have 2 races to go in the playoffs. That is 2 races to go until the cut line is set for the postseason. The NASCAR Cup Series will hit the racetrack on Saturday afternoon for Cup Series practice and pole qualifying at noon on MRN, followed by the NASCAR Xfinity Series Mission 200 at the Glen. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time is that airtime, and that all leads into Sunday, the big one, NASCAR Cup Series. Go bowling at the Glen. NASCAR Live Race Day, get you set at 1 p.m. Eastern for that one. So a lot going on in Watkins Glen, a lot going on in short track racing all across the country, and I hope you enjoy it wherever you may be. That does it for NASCAR Coast to Coast here for this week. My name is Chris Wilner, for Alon Day, our guest, and our producer, Pat Jaggers. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend and enjoy some short track racing. And, of course, we'll break it all down next week. Have a good one.